And can you promise that you won't deport immigrants who don't have a criminal record?
Here's what I can promise, Jorge. I can promise that I will do everything possible to provide due process.
But will you deport children?
Let me say this. I would give every person, but particularly children, due process to have their story told.
Can you promise tonight that you won't deport children and that you won't deport immigrants who don't have a criminal record? And this time, could I get a yes or no answer?
Yes, you can, because my priorities are to deport violent criminals, terrorists, and anyone who threatens our safety.
On the line right now is Fox News' Rachel Southerland, who is on about the debate from last night. What were your thoughts, Rachel, last night? It seemed like the questions were kind of tough.
The moment that really stood out was when Jorge Ramos, one of the moderators, asked Clinton about the email scandal.
Yeah, if she would step down, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, she looked angry when he asked that.
Yeah.
And she just threw up her hands and was basically like, oh, for goodness sake, I'm not going to answer that.
Well,
I'm not going to get indicted. That's not going to happen.
That's exactly what she said.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a strong answer, too. And the audio of it sounds
too.
strong. I didn't see the facial or the anger in her face, which is, again, another example of you hear it, it's a little different than seeing it.
The problem with Hillary is it's, what do they call that, always angry face? That could be wrong. Rachel, it was, again, this Bernie Sanders. Who would have thought that Sanders would be the contender that he is right now?
Right. He's come back from just nowhere. He even pointed out last night in the debate, he said 10 months ago we were a blip in the polls, and now look at us. And he makes a good point. And he's been able to come this far and then win Michigan. Boy, that was a head-turner. You talk about superdelegates and whether or not they'll have an influence. Hillary Clinton claims to have the superdelegate vote. Now, these people, when they go to the convention, can change their minds. Others are pledged to a state. So they could go with the flow if Sanders keeps this up and change their minds. And that could really spell trouble for Clinton.
That's very interesting because when you look at the delegate, the numbers, Hillary is over 1,200 right now, maybe up to 1,300 delegates, has quite a lead. But that's a false number, right? That is that includes the superdelegates. Right. If you look at the real numbers, it's like, I don't know, 600 to 450. I mean, it's pretty close when you think about it.
Right. I mean, it does. It does change things in light. Republicans don't have this superdelegate thing. They may get it this time after the establishment, after if Trump is nominated. But, a lot of people don't realize these superdelegates can go and just change their minds. I've heard, though, that one of my colleagues said that Bill Clinton is a superdelegate, interestingly enough. And I'm wondering, how do you get selected for this? But, they can go to the convention, change their vote, and then you have a different situation.
Well, and in this entire primary system, when we look at it, it has gotten crazier and crazier. The fact that in some primaries, a Democrat can vote in a Republican primary, and vice versa. I mean, it just is. To me, it's odd. Why would you allow someone from another club to be able to vote in your club, if you will?
Well, in those states, it's not so much about clubs. I mean, I believe I'm in Virginia, so when I go to a primary, I don't have to declare anything. I can vote in either primary.
I see. Okay.
You don't have to register as anything.
Right. And, of course, in New York, you have to be, if you're a Democrat, you vote in the Democratic primary.
Right.
Republican, you vote in the Republican primary. So Hillary last night seemed to go after Bernie Sanders on his voting record, but I'm not sure that really had, he handled it well, it seemed.
Yeah, he did. One other moment that I thought that was really fascinating was when he was asked about some remarks he made about Fidel Castro decades ago.
Right. They played the audio, too,
Yeah, it made him sound like he was a good guy.
Yeah, and he kind of waffled a bit on that answer, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He kind of demurred a little. He wasn't real clear about it. He didn't really take it back.
Interesting. All right, Rachel, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much. Thanks. This just never fails to be more and more interesting every single day. Tonight there is another Republican debate, and that'll be on WIBX. We'll be covering that thing live tonight at 8:30. What else going on here this morning? Did you see that the city of Utica, last year there was a lot of talk about the fact that the Common Council voted to allow the override of the tax cap, and with that vote, it really put the pressure on the city. So if people are unhappy with the budget, you're going to have to blame the mayor. And in this case, last night they had a vote, and the surprise, I think, out of this was it was 5-4 in favor of overriding the tax cap. But it needed to be 6-3. So you had to have at least 6 votes in order to override the tax cap. So it fails, right?
Right.
Which means
that they cannot go past the 2% increase in the property tax.
Which means
that
$600,000 has got to come out of this budget, at the very least.
Which means?
I don't know what it's going to mean. I mean, that's the...
Well, some are saying, where are they going to get that? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's money being used out of the balance, and Buchero is upset about that. It's interesting where this is going, because they're asking, the mayor is asking for a 2.5% increase, but I think the tax cap is like 1.75% or something like that. So that goes over the tax cap.
I thought his request was for 1.75.
I don't think so. Well, at least according to what I read this morning, it was 2.5%.
Remember when we were talking about this before a couple of weeks ago, when the budget was actually presented? And
we had the mayor on during that.
Right, and someone had said off the air that this was the perfect formula for the property tax cap to be overridden.
Right.
So I think a lot of people were expecting
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And so at the end of the day, it's a 5-4 vote, but not enough to override the tax cap. So what does all that mean? We'll try to talk to the mayor on that, and also Gillimi is the new president of the Common Council, and Buchero is on the budget side. It's going to be interesting to see what they say. But at the end of the day, I think stuff's got to be cut out of this budget, and there has to be cuts. We'll see what happens. Christine with an update.